Animal Services Commission meeting of Tuesday, July 9, 2013. First item on the agenda, roll call. Commissioner McCurry.
Here.
Commissioner Janko. Here. Commissioner Nielsen. Here. Commissioner Carroll is absent. Commissioner Yanet is absent. First item is public comment. Each person will have 3 minutes to talk on anything that is pertinent to the commission. So, authority.
Phyllis Doherty, Animal Issues Movement. We're here today to talk largely about making puppies in the shelter, which now has become a nationwide issue everybody knows about. And so I'm sorry it had to be that way, but this was done at a meeting where there was no announcement, there was no board report. It was obviously the intention of deceiving the rescue community. And that's not fair to anybody. Also, the taxpayers who pay for everything that the shelters do, pay for everything that's done in them. There's another issue that is related, but not on the agenda today, that the rescue people need to know about, and anyone that's interested in the animals of the community, which was an effort by the mayor's office. Ms. Barnett said she's opposed to this, but until I see a letter in the council file that indicates that, I'm going to assume that this is also part of her plan, which is to allow large organizations to take over pet stores in any prime locations in shopping malls, business districts, and set up pet shop operations that will have the prime animals from the animal shelters, which will then, of course, really decrease the ability of all of our rescue groups to do adoptions out of nearby locations. The best locations, West LA and the West Valley, are the prime locations that they're looking at. And there are animal rescue groups that have been struggling for years to take the animals in need out of the shelter and get them into good homes. And these are some of the areas where Petco has allowed them in various locations that they've allowed them to come in and do adoptions. When they are next door or within proximity to a large fancy pet store by Best Friends or Found Animals that can afford to give away the animals free, $9, 2-for-1 specials because they're just bargain basement items, why not? Our rescuers will not be able to find sound homes for any of the animals that they're trying to save from the shelters. This is another thing that they were deceived about. They were made to believe that this would be a good thing. It will not be a good thing, and will also be a very detrimental thing to any aspect of the business community, because lawyers, dentists, childcare may find themselves right next door to a pet store that has adult animals of unknown origin, urinating, defecating, not having the proper sanitation, health, airflow for health, and we cannot have that. It's a violation of all of our business rules and our zoning codes. So this issue is still pending, and we're going to bring in opposition to it. Our rescue people have to have the ability to compete, if you want to call it compete. It isn't a competition, but to have the same opportunity to adopt out the animals that are not as desirable as Best Friends and Found Animals will have by picking the most desirable animals immediately from the shelter and going out there and giving them away to the public so that they get that information on their email list, and then those people become donors.
Terry.
Everyone, Terry Austin, the Amanda Foundation. I wanted to clarify something that was brought up at one of your last meetings regarding the Heigl donation and the Apollo project. And I think that you were, I just wanted to clarify that when the Amanda Foundation was asked to help use those funds, it was because the Heigl Foundation had given $50,000 to the department to use vehicles in certain areas. The department asked us, could we facilitate using that money by separating out our invoices of pipples that came in from those 2 zip codes, and then they would deduct that money from the Heigl Fund. We in no way, shape, or form offer to promote or make that program successful. I think the big problem with the Apollo program was if the money was given to the department with nothing. It's like me saying, here's $50,000, go cure AIDS. I mean, there really wasn't a whole plan there. It was just a donation. But I think it was represented that we at some level, due to our lack of funds or expertise, had made this program not work. That wasn't the case. We were never in on the beginning meeting. We were only asked to help spend money. Subsequent, when the Heigl Foundation complained about it, we said we'd put some extra effort and see what we could do. But in the meeting that John was at, Councilman Alcon, I said, we don't have any extra funds to do a proper promotion for this campaign. So I just want you to know that we didn't drop the ball in your level. Sorry, we didn't. I just want that clear. The other thing I want to talk about as quickly as I can is the $9 adoption. When we're talking about the next agenda item about fosters and who's going to look after these animals, there's a situation that came across recently on my desk, and very often I mean, every day I get thousands of emails, people talking about what's wrong here, there, whatever. And if I don't have actual proof, if I haven't actually had a name, I'm not going to discuss it or talk about it. But here's what happened. I was contacted by actors and others who we have a full service animal hospital, full service veterinary hospital, and we work with actors and others and 20 other rescue groups. We offer a very low cap cost care to other rescue groups. And I was contacted by a woman who had adopted an animal from Mission Hill Shelters from Best Friends. And the dog was ill and the woman needed to see a dog. She had only had the dog less than 15 days. Long story short, she purchased the dog for $9. At the time of the adoption, she told the people she was on disability and couldn't afford the adoption fee, and apparently they had lowered it. It was $9. The dog had a nursing mother that had been spayed and was released to this woman. The woman was clearly a low-income person. That night, a volunteer from Best Friends came to her home with antibiotics and said the dog's on these antibiotics. Was not told her at the time of adoption. It was for an infected infant because the dog apparently had been nursing mother before adoption. But nonetheless, nobody told them the dog was on antibiotics. Within 2 days, the dog was inappetent. The woman called Best Friends and said the dog seems to be sick. And they said, well, you're really lucky because every dog adopted from us gets a $75 refund on your expenses once you incur them. And she said, I couldn't afford your full adoption rate. I don't have money to go to that. So they gave her a list of other charities and low-cost hospitals to approach. She went to a hospital in North Hollywood. They diagnosed the animal and asked for 20 seconds. They diagnosed the animal with pneumonia, said the dog needed to be hospitalized. She again called Best Friends. They told her that it couldn't help her. At that point, she reached out to the charities. Now, a week has gone by, the animal was ill. Best Friends sent it to us. The dog arrived, struggled through that, within 20 minutes of walking in their door. I don't blame Best Friends for the animal being ill. I'm very concerned that a follow-up wasn't done on the animal. And if this is an example of how foster people are going to operate, or other rescues are going to be operating with their animals, I think the city or the department should take a very hard look at handing out expectant mothers who can incur a lot of costs and go on with the pregnancy. So I have everything documented. I'm going to be presenting it all to you. But $9 adoptions for people who can't afford vet bills isn't bad.
Hi, Susan Taylor from Actors and Others for Animals. I don't come down here anymore unless the topic is spay-neuter. Since I am here today, I wanted to make a few observations that I believe need consideration. With all the emphasis about making Los Angeles no-kill, it seems the department has placed an even higher emphasis on getting animals out of the shelter without regard to where they are going or caring if that animal will stay in the home. It has become a numbers game. The recent Daily News article stating a sharp plunge in euthanasia rates this year is great news indeed, and I congratulate you, but the numbers are deceptive. The article states that Best Friends pulled 2,800 pets from the shelter, adopted out 1,500, and shipped out of state 1,100. That adds up to 2,600, and the article doesn't state where the other 200 went. And it blurs the line as to whether the 4,600 spay-neuter surgeries were done by the NKLA Coalition or Best Friends. We also don't know how many animals the department has shipped out of state, or how many have ended up in hoarding situations. We deserve to see core numbers. Best Friends is just one of your new partners, but because of their money, they have the ability to reduce or eliminate adoption fees and pay rescue groups for their adoptions. Yet 1,500 is far less than the 5,000 promised. And don't get me wrong, I really and truly don't blame Best Friends for not adopting out as many animals as promised. While many will say that there is not an overpopulation problem, just not enough homes, the truth is that not everyone wants a pet or should have a pet, like not everyone should have children. When you give animals away for free or little money, you are attracting people who are coming to get an animal because they cannot afford the usual adoption fee. And because they can't afford the fee, they can't afford medical treatment. Actors and Others is one of a handful of organizations that helps pet guardians with emergency medical needs. More and more, we are seeing applications from people who adopted or rescued an animal from a high-kill situation. And yes, some have come from the city shelter. And now the animal is sick or injured. Or the animal comes out of the shelter sick with kennel cough that moves into pneumonia, or distemper, or the limp that is really an ACL tear. And the guardian can't afford treatment. A great many of these are euthanized. In the cases where the animals came from the shelter, are we really ready to label them successful adoptions? We are being inundated with medical requests on a daily basis. We receive estimates in the thousands upon thousands of dollars, and the guardian can put $50 or $100. We simply don't have that kind of money to help everyone. Bottom line, we must stop just counting adoption numbers and start considering what is a successful adoption, and that may mean starting to consider the veterinary fees in the equation. We in the humane communities have championed low-cost spay-neuter. Maybe we need to start thinking of getting free clinics or subsidized clinics for animals. We need to start looking at the animal's needs, not our own. We seem to be worried only about no kill, but all of us are here today working on behalf of animals so that we can stop the killing. We need to start caring for and protecting the animals. We need to, as the LAPD motto says, protect and serve.
Dan?
Hi, Daniel, that's from the Stan Foundation. When Eric Garcetti was elected, he said he was going to make the city business friendly. That was going to be his big thing, business friendly. Today, you're going to be discussing issues that are hostile to business. Just for example, look at barking bitches on Fairfax, an adoption business, and one of the best known ones. You're looking at proposals that are going to suffocate a private business. Brenda is trying to create a monopoly that will point out. And I have an article that's in queue, and if you adopt these things, I'm going to publish an article that says Garcetti corrects stumble on pet store initiative, boosting revenue hurts animals and small business. We have to remember why the department is here. It's not to increase revenue. You're here not to increase live births. You're here not to increase liability for the city. You're not here to suffocate small business. And the things that you're going to be voting on today will do all of these things and more. We have a problem. What's going on here is that Brenda is micromanaging the people who pull out most of these animals. And there's no follow-up on the public who gets intact animals. This is misguided energy, trying to micromanage us. I mean, find out how many of the New Hope partners are suspended and why, and see how many of those people are connected to these adoption stores. You're alienating the people and the businesses who save most of these lives. But where's the follow-up with the public? There isn't any. And you're also on the verge of creating monopoly, which may violate federal law by trying to be a single source for puppies. Why are you allowing more head count to come in? I think last meeting or the meeting back, Brenda said, oh, it's a morale booster when the staff sees puppies. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What about the morale down when they have to be killed or their mothers don't get out? You know, you're not here to boost morale by allowing births. You boost morale by stopping births from happening, increasing adoptions, and decreasing kills. But that's coming from a professional breeder. She finds the joy in the birth. Yeah, all of us love a puppy. All of us love a kitten. You don't get morale from that. You get morale from preventing the kills, increasing the adoptions. And it's so backwards. Think about what you're going to vote on today, and think if it's in line with Eric Garcetti's initiative to make the city business friendly and to help with the pet store initiative. The pet store initiative is great, but you're doing an ass backwards thing right now. You're going to ruin a really good idea. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Jeff?
Hello, Jeff Fleiss, SpayNeuterUSA.com. I haven't been here for a little while. The last time I was here, this was Bill and I. It's nice to see some of the other people attending here, however you guys did it, you did it. And, you know, I've been here in many meetings years ago. A lot of people in the humane community differ with Phyllis's opinion. And in this case, I think everybody I've spoken to agrees with Phyllis in regards to selling puppies. It's going to be a black mark on the department. It's going to be a black mark on the city. And it's pretty embarrassing for the citizens of Los Angeles to have something like this occur. Also, I basically want to say condolences to the department commissioners for Kathy Reardon no longer being here. Thank you.
Whitney?
Hi, I'm Whitney. The best thing this commission could do is ask Eric Garcetti to bring back Kathy Reardon. Thank you. I'm just going to ask you some questions that came to my mind when I heard this whole topic was coming up, and it's not going to fit in the 1 minute. So, in fiscal 2012, how many pregnant dogs were impounded at LA Animal Services? Of those, how many gave birth at the shelter? How many were aborted? Of the moms who gave birth, how many puppies were adopted by the public? How many puppies and moms were pulled by New Hope partners? How many postpartum moms who were not rescued in time were killed for time and space? How many unweaned puppies were saved by New Hope? How many puppies who were born at the shelter died at the shelter due to the environment? How many puppies born at the shelter were killed due to illness acquired at the shelter? Does anyone have the numbers for any of these questions? Stats, hard stats from last year. Before anyone can talk about supplying stores with puppies, why don't we talk about what happened in 2012 at the shelter? I was the proud rescuer of 3 black lab mixed puppies, pit bull mixed puppies. I walked in North Central and I saw the staff all bottle feeding, and I was like, oh, how cute. That's so sweet. And they said, yeah, they have till 4 o'clock to live if no one comes to get them. I was like, what? Yeah, someone's coming to get 2, but there's these 3. Well, I took the 3. You guys don't have even fosters remotely to save even the ones that are coming in unweaned right now. Please think about that before you're making any ridiculous decisions about supplying more puppies being born. Thank you.
Hayes?
Hi, I'm Hayes Lynn from Take Me Home Rescue. I just ask that before you vote on any major issues, that go to your shelters, hang out there, go to the receiving area. I watched about 15 kittens come in, a box of puppies come in. They are coming in, and my rescue can't save them. We are so overburdened, and none of us want to, have to euthanize any animal, but unfortunately I do think we have to pick right now. Are we gonna do prevention, or are we gonna have more and more animals come in this world that will end up being killed anyway? So I just ask, that I wish we could do more enforcement. If you go to any of the parks, you'll see all these unaltered animals running around. We need more prevention before we do anything to bring in more animals into this world. So thank you.
Julia?
Hi, every time I have to do this and speak in front of people, I resent it. Some people didn't come today. I got emails last night, they thought this was a hoax. There are rescuers who emailed me last night saying, you're just trying to wind up the rescuers. There is no way this would even be considered. It was so, sorry about the late term pregnancy. But I went to address under the general. I listened to your meeting about this, and I heard you guys trying to ask questions. And when you go back and listen to it, you might see, but you weren't getting a lot of information, and you were getting a lot of false information. And for example, Lisa, when you guys were talking about the idea of drawing puppies, at first it started with the idea of baiting people into the shelter. Draw them in with puppies. There are puppies there now. I just took 2 small breed puppies last week. There are puppies there right now who need homes, so I don't understand. If people are supposed to be flocking in, where are they? They were there for weeks before we took them. The second thing is, I called 3 vets. And it's been argued that late-term pregnant dogs result in puppies being born by equivalent of a C-section. I've witnessed 2 C-sections. Both of them, the puppies, they're not breathing. And it took a lot of work to get these puppies to breathe. And these are puppies that C-sections were done because there was a puppy stuck in the canal. So another issue is, who's paying for that when they have to have a C-section? Who's covering that bill? Because that was $2,100 for us on this dog that we rescued from the street. But the puppies in that C-section weren't breathing, and it took over an hour to try and revive them, and 1 puppy out of 11 were saved out of these 2 dogs. It took a lot, and so I called 2 vets and I asked, is it any different late term than early spay? And they said no, there's no more danger. They said you're taking the uterus out. It is the same procedure. And I feel like the information brought to you guys is trying to present this crying, screaming puppies that are crying and they have to take them out and they have to kill them. I noticed the term kill was used when it's the adults in the shelter, they say euthanize, which I found very interesting as well. And I feel like you guys were really trying, but you weren't really given enough information. And for considering something like this, definitely need more information. As Whitney said, no one has answers to all of those stats. There's a rescuer who I know, I think was probably the rescuer who came in and wanted the pregnant dog, which against policy was released to her, from what I heard in that meeting, which I find unbelievable, but who said there's plenty of room on the East Coast, and they're asking for puppies. And we need to do this because they need puppies. People come to us wanting small breed puppies, and we work with them, and we educate them, and they end up adopting a dog maybe 6 months older, maybe 5 pounds heavier. And not once has an adopter come back and regret that. They love the dog they adopt, and they do because we educate them. They don't come back going, oh, I really wish I had the 3-pound puppy. They're happy. And I feel like that's our duty to these dogs, to the ones that are alive now. Thank you.
Mary?
Mary Catalano. First of all, I just can't even, I'm just so absolutely blown out of my sneakers to think that you would absolutely consider this. This is absolutely the most insane thing. It's like you're going to become breeders, okay? First of all, I want to know how many puppies are returned that are adopted out of our pounds anyway, to be killed within 6 months because people that took them, first of all, can't afford them, will not housebreak them, will not train them. They're just returned to be killed. They're borrowed, okay? They're being adopted for $9. Are you kidding me? $9? You can get them and take them to bunchers. You can sell them to labs. You can use them for pit bull bait, any animal. So now, are you going to let pregnant cats go out? Like, we can't give cats away. I haven't placed any kittens at my adoption where I screen people to decent homes in 2 months. 2 months. It's kitten season. I want to know where Kathy Reardon is. It's unbelievable that she's not here. Another vote for her to be back. You're wasting our time. I wonder if NKLA means nice kill LA. It's nice kill. You're pretending that you're not going to kill animals. What the hell are you smoking? Okay. If Laurel wants puppies, she can go to East LA and read the penny saver ads and gather them up. Okay? Deputize her to go gather them up. Check the Craigslist ads. There are tons of puppies that you're not getting in the shelters that are being sold by idiots who are not obeying the spay-neuter law. You, by allowing these animals to be bred, you're not even obeying your own ordinance for mandatory spay-neuter. What is going on here? It's like, it's just getting worse and more insane, okay? You commissioners should have to go sit at the pound on the weekend and watch the dumping. Sit there for hours. Watch the dumping for a weekend. Spend a day or 2 watching the dumping and the stupid excuses, okay? And then watch the killing. Watch the killing of the unweaned animals that come in, of the old animals that come in. You need people to counsel people to have a compassion to take on animals that are already here. Puppies are a pain in the butt. You couldn't pay me to take a puppy. They scream, they shit everywhere. They're not cute. And people that don't understand that are taking them home to borrow them, to bring them back to be killed. I'm sick of it. 4th of July weekend, do you know how many animals came into the shelters that will die? Because low-income people that set them out there unneutered and unfixed, let them out, let them escape. They're not coming back. They don't want to pay for them to get out. They're dead. They're dead. This just means dead, okay? I'm sick of it. Get a brain, people. Please, do not consider this.
Any other public comment?
Good morning. I'll be brief, I promise. My name is Laura Gretson. I'm with the Dog Squad Animal Rescue. This is my first meeting. And interesting. I'm really proud to be part of this. On the surface, puppies in the shelter are good PR. They draw people in. It makes sense from a PR stance, from a business stance. I'm a business owner. I get that. However, as we've well established, being a puppy or kitten in the shelter is not an automatic adoption, and it's certainly not an automatic easy way to anything. It often, a week later, a month later, a year later, in return, can still end up as a euthanasia number. We do not have a shortage of puppies in Los Angeles. Today on Craigslist, and this is just this morning, these are the puppies for sale listings. Those are 55 listings, 1 or more dogs per listing. Some are probably duplicates, but still. On Pet Finder this morning, under the baby category of just dogs, 1,533 listings in baby. That's not young, baby. We have puppies. We're not out of puppies. It's all good. So what I'm asking you to do is to not put more puppies in the shelter. Focus on the adult dogs. Focus on the training. Focus on educating the public about how to keep their dogs at home. There are great programs that are working towards keeping the dogs in the homes, not putting them in the shelter in the first place, which keeps the euthanasia rates down, which helps the city. So I'm asking you to redefine success. I'm asking you to recognize that adoption numbers are not the be-all, end-all, and that we need to rise above the PR, and I'm asking you to rise above the easy way and to not allow the puppies to be born in the shelters. Thank you.
What's your name again?
Laura Gertson.
Hi, I'm Lydia Grant, and I'm on the Sunland Neighborhood Council. We recently sent a letter to Ms. Barnett asking about money regarding to the RACO program. I just want you, I'm only laying that because I want you to understand that the animal issues are important to our community. And my concern is the liability that you would be setting the city up for if you make these decisions. One of those is the fact that the pet stores will be supplied by the animal shelters creates 2 issues. One of them is the legal implications of a monopoly, which could cause the city major liability issues. The second is that there is a lemon puppy law in the state of California, and the liabilities for the shelter to be producing and supplying these animals to the shelters could backfire on the taxpayers as far as the liabilities if these animals are sick. So before any decisions are made, this needs to be considered, because these are state laws and federal laws that could be in violation with the liabilities. I don't even think our new mayor has the knowledge base of what kind of liabilities, besides the fact that he's set up a foundation for trying to be business friendly. I think that these decisions are being made without proper input, without real consideration to all of the factors. And I think that you guys should postpone this vote until more people can have input. Thank you.
Robin?
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm with Angel City Pitbulls. I'm just making a couple of notes. I'm a little frazzled because I apologize. But I just wanted to address a couple of things. One, I wanted to address that the low-income issue that's come up, and I just wanted to say that I was low-income as a kid, and now I'm in animal welfare, and I'm a teacher, so I don't make a lot of money. So if something happens with my dog, an ACL tear, luckily I have insurance, but it would be difficult for me to afford it as well. And just because somebody is low income, I don't think that it necessarily means they're not a great home. I do think we still need to make pet costs affordable and accessible, but I'm totally for the $9 adoptions. I think it's fine, and I think we just find resources out there to help them. In terms of the late-term stay, my concerns are if we're bringing more puppies into the shelter system, even though they're not technically in the shelter system, that means the dogs that are already in the shelter won't be filling the pet store kennels, and that's a concern to me. My other concern is that it's going to probably be mostly small breed puppies, and I'm with a pit bull rescue, so where does that leave the bigger dogs? And I just feel like there should be some other ways, that we can. I just pulled a puppy from West LA shelter today. It's, a 12-week-old puppy. So they are out there, and they do come back as adults, and that's a problem that we face as a rescue too. And we always say when we pull a litter, in a year, let's save spaces for half of them to come back, because they do come back. And I think that's a problem, because I think people that think they want a puppy don't necessarily want a puppy, and I do agree that it's just education. I don't know enough about this to really say do it or don't do it, but my heart is leaning towards no. And so I just want to make sure that I know you will, but really consider what's before you make a decision. And that's it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? You have a card? Well, fill it out later, just state your name, give it to me later.
My name is Josh Liddy. I run a website called SwayLove.org, and I take photographs of shelter dogs. My thoughts are I understand a lot of what people are saying. My thoughts are kind of go both ways on this. I read something recently about the non-maximizing of the existing spay and neuter funds for low-income folks. And I don't know if that was true or not, but it said that $200,000 was shifted to staff salaries and $400,000 was kind of flushed because it wasn't used or whatnot in a specific time frame. Since that's kind of the main crux of supporting low-income folks, that's one of the main things of true no-kill. I don't understand why all that money was lost. Just to be clear, again, true no-kill, not what I consider what you guys are doing. What you guys are doing is not true no-kill that's promoted by the No-Kill Advocacy Center. I kind of view what you guys are doing as a facade marketing ploy. With that being said, I think everyone behind me would agree, we do want shelter pets in these pet stores. Adult shelter pets, a lot of them are being killed, a lot of pit bulls are being killed. But also with that, I think I personally, and I know I'm probably the only person in here that's going to agree with this, but I don't think it's ethical to kill puppies or do late-term abortions, and you're essentially killing those puppies. Again, going back to true no-kill, it's about not killing dogs that are not suffering, not killing dogs that are anything but truly vicious. So puppies are included in that, and if you're doing all these abortions, those puppies are being killed. And that's a sad fact that a lot of these people will probably want to hang me for, but that's just a fact. So are we doing true no-kill, or again, is this just a fraudulent? I don't even understand what's going on with LA City, because if you're promoting, this, which aligns with true no-kill, but everything else you do doesn't align with true no-kill. So, I don't know. The question I'd lead with, I guess, is killing wrong, and do you reject it? And if that's true, then you shouldn't be euthanizing any animals in the shelter, and there should be a lot of things that you should be doing that you're not doing. And again, I guess I don't support aborting puppies as well. So I think a lot of what's been said here has been defeatist by both people behind me and Ms. Barnett, and a lot of you guys has been defeatist. And I think a lot of what Ms. Barnett does is disingenuous as well. So.
Shelley?
Good morning. This is my first time here. My name is Shelley Rosati. I'm an attorney that's very interested in animal welfare. two of the things that were kind of disturbing to me with this agenda are that the puppy mill ordinance and the change to the foster program were on the same agenda. I was very involved with getting the puppy mill ordinance passed in Burbank, and we got letters from a law firm, Kelly Dry and Warren, who represents groups such as the Hunt Corporation, which is the largest supplier of puppy mill puppies in the country. And there was no shortage of opponents to that ordinance who feel that there is a master plan to funnel puppies from animal services into those stores. And this gives them a lot of ammunition as we're working on these types of ordinances throughout the country. And enforcing the ordinance, which is one of the reasons that I'm here today, makes us expend a lot of energy on combating those arguments from the opponents of what we're trying to do, than focusing on decreasing the number of animals that are put down in our country consistently. And having spent, almost a year and a half of my life on this ordinance, keeping us as attorneys motivated to get involved in animal welfare, that enforcement piece has to be there. Otherwise, we're caught in a position of trying to figure out civil litigation strategies which will, enter into an already clogged litigation system. So that's what, having them both on the same agenda is really tough. And I hope that there'll be, in conversations today about how it could appear that this was a grand goal. Thank you.
Anybody else? That's all for public comment. Item number 2 are the minutes. Unfortunately, they're not done at this time. They'll be presented at the next meeting. Which brings up item number 3, discussion item. Implementation of LAMC 53.73, banning of milk bread pets in Los Angeles pet stores that became effective 6/17/2013. This ordinance prevents pet stores from selling dogs, cats, and rabbits raised in puppy mills. Pet stores must now get animals from shelter and rescue.
So just to give you an update on what the department has done so far and what we are doing, we sent out a letter to all the pet stores and sent them copies of the ordinance so that they would be reminded. They had been told before, but we wanted to make sure that they were reminded that it had become effective. We've also received a number of complaints about one store, and then some other sporadic stores have been cited, have been mentioned as people believing that they still are selling mill-bred puppies. 2 stores have been given notices to comply, and there are 6 stores who are on the list to be visited. I've also asked our permits division to visit all of the pet stores, not just those who are being reported, to double check their records and see where their pets are coming from. So that's on their agenda and it's on their plan. It's a little bit of a slowdown this week because the circus is in town, and our permits. People are pretty busy with the circus activities, but that's what's happening. The challenge that we have is that we can give them at this point a notice to comply, and we can continue to give them notices to comply, and we can actually write at some point a citation and send it to the county, and then it may or may not be upheld. We are working, we're trying to move forward as quickly as possible, and quick is a relative term within the city of Los Angeles, on our administrative citation program. That was passed by City Council. So what happens once it's passed is that then the process, much the way things happen here, once they decide, okay, we like this idea, we're past the administrative citation program, then it has to go to the city attorney to look at any ordinance that might be affected, and it also has gone to a working group of people who will figure out exactly how to make the collection function. And we're part of that group, and it's just everything from are we going to do the collections in-house, is there going to be an outside vendor, what products are we going to use to do the swipe cards in the field. I mean, it's just a process-oriented committee. So that work is ongoing, and we're actually, as recently as yesterday, I think we gave them a little nudge and said, what are we waiting for? So we're trying to keep that rolling along, because once that happens, then we get into the $250,000, $500,000 citations, so that we have a little bit more ability to get people in their pocketbook, which may have a better effect than some of the other things that we can now do. So that's sort of what's going on. The other thing that was mentioned in some of the public comment is that there is a zoning challenge that is being worked on through the Plum Committee. Yeah, through the Plum Committee. And they're trying to determine what to do about the fact that pet stores currently in their commercial locations are restricted to 3 adult dogs, and or 3 adult dogs and 3 adult cats. And that just has to do with our pet limit here in the city of Los Angeles. So at this point, you know, pet stores can have more puppies and more kittens because they, well, whatever, under 4 months old. But once they hit the 4-month mark, then they can have 3 of each. So that's that process. We hope is going to be on the Plum Committee agenda later this month, but I don't know for sure. That's being shepherded along by Councilmember Corrett's office. So that's sort of where we stand. It's I know people are frustrated that.
I would bet not everybody in the audience knows what the Plum Committee means.
Well, it's go ahead.
It's Planning and Land Use Management Committee.
Good, thank you. And it's I know people are frustrated that we haven't been able to just stop the pet stores, but we're using what tools we have.
But they are required to comply currently, correct? Even though the zoning ordinance has not been adjusted?
Yes. The ordinance is in effect. The weak part is what can we do to enforce it? And we have to work within the current LA municipal code and what we're allowed to do, which is we can give them a notice to comply, we can eventually give them a citation, which then bounces it out to LA County to decide what they want to do with it.
Do we have a best guess as to when the administrative citation program will be up and running?
Get your crystal ball out.
As Brenda mentioned, John Chavez Animal Services. As Brenda mentioned, we've reached out to Office of Finance because they have to start this working group going to start the implementation of that. At this point, it's too early to tell what their timetable is, but that's going to be something we'll be talking about to find out when we can actually implement the ACE program. So, no specifics at this time.
Well, we're hoping within 6 months, but you know, this has been going on, I think, since what, 2000, trying to get the ACEs program through.
This has been going on for about 20 years.
Yeah. So, but we've at least City Council has approved it now, so now it's getting the functional piece done.
And I mean, understanding that it's less effective, are we at least citing the non-compliers?
The first thing we do is we give them a notice to comply, and that's what we're doing. And there will be follow-up visits, and every pet store, I've asked the permits division to visit every pet store.
How many are there?
Well, I think they're, it's a guess, but I believe there are about 117.
And how are we finding out about them? Just people are...
Right now, people are sending me emails, and then I'm forwarding them to Mark Salazar, and he makes sure that the permits division follows up.
Anyone have questions or comments, anything? Do we have public comment on this?
Oh, yeah. Fellas? Everybody has 1 minute.
Phyllis Sturdy, I'm going to talk very fast. First of all, I did a CPRA with Mr. Bighart and Animal Services to find out how many pet stores wanted pets from the shelters and engaged in this process so that with the zoning change and everything. Not one. There was not one inquiry from any pet store that has any intention. As far as the county is concerned, county licenses breeders. We have the largest breeder in the area out in Lancaster, and they supply stores directly with their puppies right here. They own the stores and they own the breeding kennels. The county monitors them very, very carefully, but it's not illegal, so there's no reason for them to come in and enforce anything. That should have been thought out. And there's the penalties that were put into this do not need an administrative citation. The penalties are in the ordinance. They can be enforced. So that's just really an excuse for not knowing how to do it. The issue is that we have laws that if anyone in there is not taking care of the animals, they can be put out of business without having to go through all of this. And it's too bad that we're not just enforcing those ordinances.
Sue?
Maybe I'm missing something, but first we're talking, Susan Taylor, Actors and Others for Animals. But you can't take back what you've written or said in prior meetings. And you're talking about supplying pet stores with puppies from the shelter so that they can make money. Yet, here we're all talking about trying to find them and stop them for what we're doing. So it just doesn't make sense to me why now we're going to be business friendly with them when we're trying to basically shut down a breeding operation. That's the big thing. I just don't get it. And a lot of these things that we want to do, it's just for us to make us feel good. I don't know why we have to feel good about all this. This is pet stores are a business that we want to stop them selling animals. We shouldn't then be supplying them. And I don't think that you can take all of these portions out. You have to put it all in a whole. Everything that we're talking about today is really coming back to, are we going to allow late-term abortions? Are we going to give money to the shelters? And I wanted to say one more thing. If there's 51 people in the Craigslist that are selling puppies, why aren't our people out gathering to see if there's 51 breeders' permits?
Hello.
Carrie Ellison.
Carrie Ellison, the Amanda Foundation. All I want to address is, again, the medical of taking care of puppies and animals coming out of the shelter and going through a pet store or a rescue or anybody. You have to be responsible for the animals. Otherwise, you're just like a really bad pet store that gives a 30-day guarantee and just keeps you coming back for about 30 days until the guarantee's up and it tells you you're in luck. You know, this is how they operate. They have a bait and switch sort of thing. So when you're supplying animals from the shelter, are these people going to stand behind it, or are you going to have the situation that I just described with the adoption done out of Mission Hills, with an animal adopted out of an LA shelter that was sent home ill and died within 12 days of adoption?
Tracy? Dan?
Hi, that's from the Stan Foundation. I reported Western Pet at 555 4 Southwestern Avenue, back on the first day that this was illegal, and they're still selling animals. I guess one piece of confusion that's going on is the city setting itself up to be the sole supplier to the pet stores of the city? If so, that's a monopoly. How do you address that? If the city is not setting itself up to be the sole supplier, how are you going to track when these pet stores get animals from Devore, or from the streets, or from owner turn-ins? It's impossible to track. Also, the California lemon law states, among other things, the liability. The buyer is entitled to a replacement plus reimbursement for veterinary expenses. The seller, the city, is required to cover up to 1.5 times the purchase price of the dog and veterinary expenses. So I know it's kind of tied into the the other subject, but if you're going to be the supplier of the puppies, what are you going to do about the liability? What are you going to do about the potential monopoly? And how are you going to track where the non-LA Animal Services animals are coming from? She should be able to answer those questions before you vote on it.
Whitney?
All right, I just wanted to say that I live, Whitney Smith, I live downtown and I travel through Koreatown every day, and there are entire stores that just say Puppies in a permanent signage that has not changed since June 17th, 2013. There is no enforcement plan for this, although I am completely for banning the selling of dogs at pet stores. I am for 3A. I would just like to address no, I want to stay on that. Yeah, so what is the enforcement plan? There's hundreds and hundreds. In East LA, there's ones down in Slauson. They actually say puppies in the signage. So there should be just like a flurry of violations, ordinances, maybe penalties going on right now before we even talk about giving them anything. How about stopping what's going on right now with what they're selling? It's staggering how many stores even say puppies in the signage.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I put mine in.
I put mine on. Hi, I'm Hayes from Take Me Home Rescue. I'm definitely for this. I think it's great. I just want to offer an idea. Since Best Friends is the king of transports, and they're getting a wonderful facility for free in West LA, what about working with them to take some of your medical? You have so many medical puppies that could be easily cured, that we are overburdened, we cannot take them all. And Best Friends could definitely help with that. They have the funds, they have the facility, and then work through them to get them to the pet stores instead of killing them. Because we're killing a lot of medical that does not need to be killed, that are adorable puppies, that could definitely go to the pet stores. I am for this proposal. I think it's great, but I definitely think let's please look into the shelters, work with these big groups that are transporting that I'm totally against doing, so I would rather them stay in LA. At least they can be more tracked. And God forbid if it doesn't work out, at least all of us are here too. So I would love if you guys could to maybe discuss it with Best Friends. Thanks.
Just wait and see. Mary Catwell, I'm also worried about enforcement upon this, but also we have the Santee Alley, apparently this is not being, nobody cares. It's still, the people are still selling puppies and things down there. I don't know when you're patrolling it or checking it out, but I was at my adoption last weekend and someone said, my son just bought a puppy for $20 because the boy told him it was going to get killed and he got it in Santee Alley. So that's not, I don't know how this is going to be enforced or patrolled, but it would be really nice if some things were enforced, like licensing and spay and neuter and the things that we've actually voted on. So it's a mess. Again, it's a mess. Again, I just want to remind you that Santee Alley is still happening. It's still kicking as far as the selling of animals. Thank you.
Julia Pennington. My question is also enforcement, if that could be explained today before it's voted. Of course, I'm against, I want to ban the selling of dogs and cats in pet stores, but I would like to know more information about enforcement. Oh, it was on hers. Great. And in the board report on the late term, this is about the pet stores though, and I think it's interesting, and I think you have to read the fine lines sometimes between the lines even about the character of the motive. On the last part, fiscal impact, it says similarly, there may be an opportunity to sell puppies to pet stores. Is that really what we should be doing? It's in here, to sell puppies to pet stores. Thank you.
Wow.
Shelley Rosati, just wanted to help maybe present some suggestions for solutions for the administration. Is that, you know, there's a whole group of attorneys who are more than willing to donate their time. I volunteer for the Domestic Violence Project, and there's a skill set that's there that's willing to give time for free. So in your discussions, I mean, if that would even be a remote possibility to have a volunteer panel, I mean, do admin stuff, you know, help write citations, help do anything, it's there. It just utilize us.
That's all public comment.
Okay, so there's no board action
There's no
required on
board
this?
action required on this. Next item is the Ringling Brothers Circus and related veterinary services. This is merely an update.
Yeah, as it turns out, the veterinarian who will be, who's working with us on the circus, the bill will not be over $5,000, so I don't need to come to you for permission, but we just wanted to make you aware of it. I think John has already met her. He was over there this morning for the loading and the unloading of the elephants. I'll be over later today for the examination of the elephants. Do you want to?
Yeah, we were down there along with the vet, Dr. Rhonda Alaya, and we had 5 members of the SMART team, or the permitting team there as well. We watched the elephants get offloaded from the boxcars into trucks, and then they took them over to Staples.
Yeah, they did not do, it's been a tradition kind of in Los Angeles for the elephants to get off at Staples Center and to do the 3-mile walk to get off the train station and do the 3-mile walk to the Staples Center. They decided not to do that this year.
That's right. It was fairly uneventful, and we had the council office.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
We did have council, District 5 staff there also in attendance.
Are there, is Ringling putting restrictions on examination?
Well, you know, the commission in 2008 passed a pretty detailed plan for what we could do, and we have been pretty forthright with them that, not pretty, we've been very direct, that we will examine, we will be there whenever we want to, and that they really can't stop us. Now, so far we don't seem to be getting as much pushback this year as we did last year. I think that the veterinarian we had last year was perceived by some to be a little bit more controversial, and the some being Ringling Brothers. So I think we got a lot of pushback last year. You know, the bottom line on these things is the veterinarian writes a report and gives it to us after the fact. Now, clearly, if she sees something that she feels an animal must be pulled right now and cannot be allowed to perform, she has her medical obligation to say that, and then we can uphold it. We've had meetings with LAPD about, you know, doing all the what ifs. I mean, we're trying to give the elephant and the other exotic animals in the circus more protection than they've ever been given before.
Is she being allowed to examine the animals, all the animals that are being brought, regardless of whether they're performing or not?
Yes, you go through they have their setups, and She was there this morning just specifically because we're required to have her do things like look at the box cars that they travel in and find out if they meet the USDA requirements. And then this afternoon, not only do I expect her to do the element examinations, but to walk throughout and see all of them. And that's what we did last year. We saw all the big cats moving back and forth in their cages. We saw all the dogs that were performing, the horses. You know, I think they had some llamas. I don't know. I don't remember what all they have coming this year, but we were allowed to walk through all the animals, see them bedded down, you know, in the afternoon. And then the permits officers and the veterinarian are allowed to go in any time. And we've stated up front that she will examine them today. So she'll see them before the first performance. She'll watch them during the first performance, and she will see them after the first performance, and then whatever other examination she feels appropriate.
There was a boxcar of horses, and Dr. Alaya also went and checked that out as well.
Can we ask her to, when she does write her report, to include a list of any restrictions that she was given, whether it's, you know, geographic, she wasn't allowed in certain areas, or time restrictions or anything like that, so that we know?
You mean any restrictions put on by the Raymond President pays, of course?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be real interested in that too, because Dr. Ensley's report last year stated several places about how Feld wasn't cooperative in him doing his examinations.
And that was all true.
And that was all true, but it wasn't real specific, as I recall. Yeah. So I think specifics would be.
Yeah, one of the sticking points that I remember is, I think we wanted actual copies of the veterinary records, and what we were allowed to do, or what he was allowed to do, not me, was to view the records. You know, and when we look at our guidelines, it doesn't say that we'll get a copy of them. So they were within their rights, but they made it difficult, and there wasn't a lot of time to review the records.
Anything else?
Next item is for board reports. Change to the foster program for dogs in late-term pregnancy. That the board note and file the department procedure for fostering dogs in late-term pregnancy to volunteers and newborn partners.
It's my understanding that the commission may want to table any action on this and reconsider at another time, or I don't know what the procedure is.
The commission can reconsider any item at the next meeting, provided one of the individuals, one of the commissioners who voted in favor of it, in this case, all three of you, make the recommendation. So if you'd like to reconsider this, it's just one of you has to make a motion to reconsider, and it goes back to the department for their report and everything.
Okay, well, so my recollection from the last meeting, and Commissioner Caro and I were the only ones there, was that what we approved was for the program to be written, and that we didn't actually vote on either the policy or the program. That being said, I understand the way the agenda reads suggests otherwise. So, I mean, I'm happy to have a discussion about it. However, I would certainly vote to reconsider that to the extent that there was a perception that we voted to approve any part of this at the last meeting.
That's what I would recommend, because what you got from us was strictly an operational plan on if you wanted us to do this, this is the way we would probably recommend doing it. So that's the operational plan. So if you want to, I would suggest putting it back as a policy discussion at the next meeting or at a subsequent meeting.
That's fine. My recollection is exactly the same as yours. We didn't vote to approve anything. We simply voted to kind of flush this thing out. In fact, one of the comments was that our preference would be that there were only 3 commissioner members there that day. It's our preference that this would be considered by more than 3 people. So I, of course, would move to reconsider, but I think the motion to reconsider would somehow suggest that we approved it. Right. And we didn't. And so as long as the record is clear. The most important thing is that we have the ability to reconsider. So I don't really, priority is not what the record reflects, but so the record is clear, or at least so my recollection is clear. The commission didn't vote to approve anything on that day.
So all we did was the academic exercise of writing what the program would look like operationally. So I don't see any reason that it can't just be put on the agenda for the next meeting, do you?
Well, what are you asking us to do today? What, I mean, honestly,
Nothing.
well, let's note and file.
This means that this is, we were asked to write an operational plan, so this would be the plan. We're not going to change it before the next meeting. So this is how we would manage it if you make that policy decision. So the commission is in charge of policy, which would be, do we do late-term spay neuters or not? The department is in charge of, if you tell us to have a certain policy, here's the way we would operationally manage it. So that's sort of the difference.
So what we need to do then is re-agendize effectively the policy piece of it in addition to the program.
Yeah, and I don't think there will have to be another board report with it. I mean, it's just going to be your discussion.
Okay. Well then, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, are we going to draw people here?
Well, that's what I was just going to
That's
say.
my concern, exactly
We're
right.
able to talk about it today.
I think that we should discuss it to a certain extent, because we've had so much public input, and my concern is that if we put it on the agenda next time, rarely do we have this many people here.
Yeah.
Rarely do we have people coming to that meeting. In this number and this variety, kind of educating us as to what their opinion is, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know is what the procedure is.
Well, the procedure is, there's a question whether it's approved or not. I'm gonna go back and listen to the tape to get the exact wording. But in the meantime, we could have public comment and a discussion by the board. And if you're correct and it was not approved, then next time it will come back for, a vote to either implement the policy or not implement the policy. If, the tape, the recording says that you somehow did approve it, then you will overturn it and reopen it for a discussion or a vote. Being discussion would have already occurred.
Okay, I think that's fine, so long as everybody who took the time to come here today has an opportunity to speak on it. We can have whatever discussion is appropriate for today.
I agree. I feel like the time is right, even if it's not procedurally right for the vote. It's right for this discussion because of the context we have here. One of the things that's happened in the past is that oftentimes we get a lot of discussion for some reason or other, an issue is tabled, and then we come back and vote. There's three people sitting here, and kind of the force of public opinion has evaporated. And so I just don't want that phenomenon to happen again.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, would you like public comment first or discussion first?
I prefer public comment first, just helps us get more discussion.
Can I ask one just clarifying question? So when you go back and listen, regardless of how it's interpreted, the people who are there clearly are in agreement about what they feel happened. So as I see it, the two roads we're going to go down is either the record is going to feel like they voted even though they didn't, and then we will repropose it for a vote. That's one path, correct? If the commission so feels it should be, because they clearly don't feel like they voted on it, right? So if it is determined that that's how the tape sounds, we're going to bring it back to a vote, so people feel like they're actually voting on it now that they're informed. So that's one potential path.
It's going to come back to a vote either way.
So that's kind of the point I'm getting to. If we're going to get back to a vote.
We don't have to determine whether, we don't really have to listen to the
This
tape.
is my point. My point
I mean,
is if
they
it's
don't
going
think
to
they
come back
voted
to
on it,
a
that's
vote
it.
either way, is there a reason to vote at a different time versus today? Or procedurally?
It can't be voted on today, it's not agendized as an action item.
Got it.
What
What I'm hearing is we bring it back on the agenda, asking for it to come back.
I think there has to be a notice. I agree with you. I'm ready for it, but I defer to the, I shouldn't say I'm ready to vote. I'm ready to. Yeah, I need to consider it. It's more obvious what you guys say. I have a much stronger sense of what's at stake here. Certainly will ask me.
So then I guess the path regardless is we're going to have to vote.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter what this process.
But you do have the opportunity, because it's on here for discussion, to get public comment from the people who are here, and then they will also be noticed if they want to come back, that it's going to be on a subsequent agenda.
And by the same token, the department has the opportunity to consider all of these opinions and then address those concerns at the next meeting. Further kind of educate us as to why the department believes it's a good idea.
Okay.
Right, if
I'm saying if it's going to come back, then if everyone can frame their arguments in a more precise way for the next meeting, whatever the position is.
Right, if, for example, there's a request for additional information on something.
Yeah, what actually happened was there was a request to have this considered, and I either emailed or called Lisa, I can't remember which, and said, I've had this request, would you like to consider it? And she said yes, so we wrote a word report. So it's not, this is not something that the department thought up or came up with.
I misphrased it. Whatever the positions are, I think they can be more precisely framed with more discussion at the next time. So this isn't a wasted opportunity. Proceed.
Okay, public comment, fellas? You already had it.
It's not in your office, or like fixtures. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, or a couple seconds longer now, if that's all right with you. This should be decided by a vet. It's already been decided by our vets. Our vets and other vets said this is a good idea. It's what we must do. It is safe. I have filmed at least 100 late-term pregnancies and earlier-term pregnancies. And any of us that have been mothers, have been pregnant, we know that it is no fun to be pregnant, especially not fun to go through childbirth. And I want to talk to you about a little bit about these animals, these females that are going to have to go through this. This is a sore issue with me. The animals that are in the street that all become pregnant, and many of that's what these little beer animals that have gotten out, literally been raped. They had no choice. These are females that are in heat, and they are packed by males. I don't know if you've seen that. It's not a pretty process. They do become pregnant. They are mated with more than one male. The strongest male first, because he kills off the others. I've had pick up a lot of dead male dogs in these processes. And it's not pretty, it's ugly, it's horrible for the females. Sometimes they don't even eat for a week or so. By the time they get to last term of pregnancy, we're doing a little bit of endocrinology for you. They don't have enough calcium already because they have not received proper nutrition probably through their lives. They now, thank you. They now have to produce these puppies and come up with enough calcium in their bodies to produce bones in them. She's giving a little bit of extra time. Then they have to nurse them, which is another drain on their calcium. They are already undernourished. They already have not had any kind of preparation for this, and they have probably had litter after litter. This is why you find the puppy kittens stuck in the birth canal, because calcium is what causes the nerves to fire. And when there have been too many births and not enough calcium, the nerves in the uterus and stop firing, and the birth does not take place. This happens all the time. We all know that are out there in the streets. This is the physiological reason it happens. We should not be putting these, if we just from that standpoint alone, we should not be putting these female animals through more of this.
Let's give everybody a minute and a half so we have full time.
We'll have to give you 2 minutes to talk to everything.
Thank you.
Sue?
Sue Taylor from Actors and Others for Animals. We're 42 years old and we're a spay-neuter organization. We are not a shelter, we are not a placement, an adoption, or a foster organization. So that's all we deal with is spay-neuter every day. And I've spoken to several of our veterinarians, and late-term spays are just as safe as a regular spay. And those puppies usually succumb to the anesthesia. They have never been born. They are not alive. They have not experienced life. Is this not the most humane time to put in an animal and not have an animal or euthanize an animal if that's the case? Why are we worried about them when we have all these animals in the shelter that are being put down who have experienced life, who know what it's like, who have maybe come from a home for 10, 20 years? We should not be worrying about the animals that don't feel it. And if we don't want to do it, it's strictly an emotional deal. All of these people that feel that it's terrible, they're not the ones that are actually doing this. It's the veterinarian. So it should be up to the veterinarian if he needs to do it or not. And the fact that one whole partner, because we know it was one whole partner that brought this to light, we shouldn't be breeding puppies to give to New Hope partners, because that's where the fosters will be. We don't do adoptions. So every day we have people, every day, calling to wanting to get rid of their animals. And what do? We go down that list of all the organizations. And guess what? None of them take it, because they're all full. And yet we're going to give them the puppies. This is just simply wrong. And we do have an overpopulation problem in Los Angeles. If we didn't, then we wouldn't be putting animals down in the shelter.
Terry Austin, the Humanity Foundation. There's so much about this. I think it's wrong. It's just wrong. There's no good way to talk about this. But I want to address the specifics. On your report to the Board of Animal Services Commission, this is background. At the June 25th board meeting, in the department's view, late term, in the department's view, not an individual rescue, the department's view, the department's view, late-term spaying, which is equivalent of a C-section and resulting in the immediate death, not euthanasia, the immediate death of the litter is not humane and can create additional surgical risks for the dog. I just want to talk as being a purveyor of spay-neuter services in the city of Los Angeles for over 20 years, that we have had no additional problems with late-term spays than any other spays. And when you are doing a spay-neuter on an animal, there's any surgery, there's always going to be a risk. You can start to spay a female dog and she has an immune problem, or she has a bleeding problem, or something else. It has nothing to do with whether she's pregnant or not. But I think that this is erroneous, and I'd like to know how many late-term spays ended up in death or mortality at our shelters. Was this even an issue? Whose view is the department's view about that? Now, we've been referring to an individual rescuer who asked for this to be brought forth, and it was Laurel Kinder. And this person is being put out as an expert in the field. I have on my cell phone a message from Laurel 2 days after she got these puppies from the city, asking me at 8 o'clock at night how many minutes between puppies. Laurel is not an expert in anything to do with the birth of animals. I went to her home the first time she adopted a shelter animal that had puppies, and she called me in a panic. It was just a few years ago. Now, Laurel's not a personal friend of mine. I offer my services to any rescue group that calls me. And I went over to her home. She had no idea what she was doing. Because we run a full-service hospital, she has brought in many litters to us. And she has way more litters of puppies than any other rescuer I know. She does go on Craigslist, she does go on the Penny Saver, she does get them from every aspect. I spoke to her this morning before this meeting and I said, Laurel, I understand you're behind this. I cannot believe that you do anything to promote the birth of more animals in a city that is so overburdened by unwanted animals. And she said, I don't believe in killing animals and they need them back east.
Oh my God.
Okay, that was her quote, I stand by it. And I think this is just wrong on every single level. I'll tell you one other thing. I run a kennel. Right now, of the 70 dogs I have in my kennel, I have one dog under 6 months of age. You do not need puppies to bring in animals to the shelter. What you need is good PR and knowledgeable volunteer and staff to educate people that the reason they don't want a puppy is because they are at work all day long. And when that puppy ends up chewing up their carpet and barking and the landlord complains, they're going to bring it back to the shelter anyway. And I want to hear an amen from my rescue partners. How many times have you been in a shelter and someone brings in a fully adult dog on the end of a rope because they never bought a leash or a collar for it, and they turn that animal into the shelter and go back and get a puppy?
Yes.
Laura?
I will also say that reputable person knows my cost was $7,000 in.
Okay, Gary.
Wow. Hello, Laura Burton, Dog Squad Animal Rescue. I mentioned the first time I was up here that I am a business owner, and as much as the fiery passions of the rescue community get wound up, the reality is this is a city, this is a business, it has to run according to certain financial parameters. And the part that I'm asking, and I'm really curious about the part where you guys discuss this, because I'm interested in listening to that, is what are the motivations for this as, as adding more puppies, into the shelter system? Is this to eventually provide those to the pet stores down the road, which I get, it's a carrot and stick operation, puppy mills, we'll give you the puppies, you keep your business going, you pay city taxes, everybody happy. I don't think that that's a completely sound business practice myself, but I can understand where it would look like, you know, a possibility. So the part that I'm most interested in is just finding out what the motivations are besides, you know, this came up, obviously, you know, it's before the board and it's something that should be discussed, but what really are the true opportunities for the shelters if they have more puppies, and what are the downsides for it? Obviously, the spay and neuter community is very strongly, you know, opinionated about not bringing more puppies in, and I do agree with that. And I know that a lot of people in the shelters don't want more puppies in there either. You know, no one wants dogs to be killed, period, regardless of the age. The ultimate goal, maybe it's sort of a, you know, unicorns and rainbows fantasy, but it's every dog has a family and, you know, goes out and runs on the beach and has a good time. But we're a long way from that, and so I'd be really curious to find out what the motivations are for, you know, potentially passing this thing, and I look forward to listening to your discussion.
Tracy?
My name is Tracy Jones, and I've been asked to read statements from Madeline Bernstein, president of the SPCA LA, and Lori Wise, president and founder of Downtown Dog Rescue. They could not be here today, and they wanted their voices heard. Dear Board of Animal Services Commission, SPCA LA respectfully requests that the City of Los Angeles reject a plan to generate more puppies as presented by the Department of Animal Control. First, there are plenty of puppies available now with no homes for them. SPCA LA was just asked to take some from another municipal shelter who had too many. Second, the foster system is already overwhelmed with pediatric animals and insufficient foster parents. Notwithstanding that fact, there are already space and logistical challenges in finding space for foster babies who need to be returned to the shelters for adoption viewings. If that is not done in a timely manner, they are no longer puppies. This is a silly idea which increases the number of unwanted animals in a city where too many are being euthanized for time and space, or who die in cages because of already overcrowded conditions. Respectfully, Madeline Bernstein, President, SPCA LA. Dear Animal Commissioners, as the founder of Downtown Dog Rescue, I have spent over a decade providing thousands of free spay-neuter surgeries for dogs owned by people living in some of the most underserved areas of Los Angeles. A percentage of the spays have been late-term pregnant dogs. Of all of the surgeries we have done on late-term dogs, we have never had a serious complication. It greatly troubles me that the department is considering facilitating the birth of more puppies when surrendered and stray puppies in the shelters are being killed because they are not adopted. I don't know who suggested this policy change, but this is a bad idea if our goal as a community is to be no-kill. Sincerely, Lori Wise, President and founder of Downtown Dog Rescue. As a tax-paying resident of Los Angeles, I personally vehemently oppose this as well.
Yeah.
And this from the Scan Foundation, look at Brenda's document. It's an opportunity to create revenue. It's an opportunity to create product to sell to pet stores. That's in writing, an opportunity for business. That's not what you're here for. She writes it right here. Abortion of people or animals is not a happy thing. Nobody celebrates abortion. In this case, though, you're creating more head count. You're creating inventory. You're creating competition for the animals who we already have, who aren't this big, who aren't that cute, who can't compare to a puppy. You're creating competition for the animals who are already alive. And who right now, ask Brenda, who's going to take all the pets? What's going to happen to the mothers when they're back? And ask for an analysis of the cost of caring for those puppies. I mean, of these puppies, who's going to pay for those expenses? It's costly to care for puppies, especially if they're coming from sheltered mothers. And I think, and not to mention the liability that comes with the adopters, and you may have to pay more than 100% of the cost of caring for them. And I think you should really list this as what it is. Truth in advertising is that it's an inventory plan. You're creating headcount. You're creating product. Your goal here is to stop the headcount. You're enabling headcount, and that's crazy. the plan is to have fewer animals to kill and have more animals out the door, but not by creating more of them, not by making things more difficult on the animals who we already have. It's so counterintuitive, it's almost insulting that it's being considered. Abortion is not a happy thing. I've had late-term abortions done at Terry's clinic, and it's fine. It's it's difficult, but it's done, and it's an anomaly that something tragic happens. I mean, stop, don't create more of them.
Whitney?
Hi, I just want to refocus again on my puppy questions, because I will follow up with emails. How many unweaned puppies came to LA Animal Services in 2012? How many got fosters? How many puppies were killed due to illness or fading? How many were adopted? And even if a New Hope partner or foster had taken any puppies, when they get returned, as we all know, a shelter is the last place a puppy can thrive. It's a viral assault. Puppies and kittens fall apart within days of going into the shelter. And most New Hope partners or a good volunteer wouldn't even have the heart to do that. They would probably try to take them on themselves, and they already are trying to take them on themselves. So also in the proposal, it's also putting a lot of responsibility on ACTs to follow up, to make sure they come back. I mean, the ACTs don't have time to do follow-ups. That's never gonna happen. Then you got a whole bunch of puppies out there that are not being followed up, that may be adopted, unfixed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all know where that goes. I would just wanna say one thing personally. I'm more of a cat rescuer. I do dogs and cats. I am personally opposed to human abortion. I don't know a single cat rescuer that does not cry when they bring in cats to be aborted. We know we're killing the kittens, but there are no homes for the ones that we have. It's a hard ethical choice. I personally don't like it. I don't know one cat rescuer that loves aborting kittens. We know that they're individually euthanized. I've volunteered at vet clinics. They are alive. I'm not gonna debate that. I'm just saying, what do you do when me and Mary are out for 2 months with 17 kittens total and not one application? So from the kitten point of view, no one's caring about whether kittens are born. It's just a puppy issue here. I understand that, but I just want to point out that we are constantly confronted with this ethical choice. We choose to abort because there are no quality homes in the city of Los Angeles for these kittens, and I do agree there's no quality homes for an abundance of puppies. If so, there wouldn't be so many puppies being euthanized right now at the shelter. Thank you.
Hannah?
Hannah Lieberman with the Sam Simon Foundation. For those of you that have been around a few years, you know that I have been involved with hoarders in the past as a personal project. I think it's important to point out that there's a fine line between hoarding and rescue. And my concern is, what authority are you going to have over people who go through the streets collecting pregnant dogs with the hopes of selling them when you're doing that yourselves? And this is a big issue for me. You can't tell them that there are going to be limitations on them and fines when you guys are expecting revenue of your own. So you're doing the same thing, and I would hate to be aligned with the Charlotte Spaderos and the Diane Careys in the world. As far as when life starts, you know, that's an eternal debate. I'm not going to go there, but ours, for those of you that know what we do, we also do high volume spay neuter at our clinic. We do a whole lot of late term abortion. I'm sorry, pregnancy, space, whatever you want to call it. Never had a problem, and that is so much more preferable to doing the euthanasia of those individual puppies later on down the road. And then I am a little bit concerned too about what this says here, that a veterinarian and an RVT, all they have to do is a physical examination or an x-ray to see how far along the dog is. There's a lot of room for error there. And you know, we have a lot of people with agendas in our communities, with friends in the shelters, and so you really cannot say exactly when you're in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy with a dog without a background that you really know about. So this concerns me. It says once the puppies are 8 weeks old, they're the foster and the mother is going to go back to the shelter. We all know that puppies don't have fully developed immune systems until they're about 19 weeks of age. Mothers are immunosuppressed for a very long time, so they're going to go back into an environment that is very unhealthy with Giardia and Parvo and distemper and all of these things that ACTs may not be able to control. So I am adamantly opposed to any kind of prohibition of spaying pregnant dogs. Thank you.
Shelley?
legal context,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Shelley was right. In a legal context, animals are considered property, as this table, as this microphone, as this piece of paper. So to get into, I looked at some of the emotionally charged language under the background section of the report, and it talks about immediate death and not being humane. So to get into an ethical conversation about late-term abortions adds a layer of constitutional context to something that is considered property, only property. So if that's being considered as a point to base decisions on, then it should be applied to the entire animal population with euthanasia. And then the other issue that I have relating, this again, than being on the agenda at the same time, is fostering late-term pregnant dogs to bring them back into the shelters to have puppies to sell them to raise profit is exactly what the puppy mills are doing. It's exactly what they're doing. They're using those females as conduits to make money, and it's just really disturbing to the work that we've done.
Tina Clark.
Morning, Tina Clark. I'm cringing here a little bit because I'm so in the minority, but at least one person spoke in favor of this, but I'm very much in favor of this. There are so many, I think the reason so many people are against it is that so many people are caught up in too many animals and overpopulation that they're forgetting the cruelty involved in late-term abortion, late-term space. You can't just, it's not a matter of, is it safe? It's not a matter of LAS's breeding or bringing dogs. These dogs are already here, these puppies. And it's cruel to kill them. It's killing. It is killing. And it's, I am a little concerned about the whole thing about they could be sold. The whole thing about selling to the pet stores. I also wonder about the puppies will not be available to New Hope Partners and rescues. Why not? It is going to be. There is going to be. It's not going to be easy. I mean, there are people who are saying, oh, that they're not my fosters, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is, you can't just say, okay, no more late-term, no more late-term staying. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of outreach for fosters. I think this is very important. Should be done anyway, and I think that it could be done, recruiting many more fosters, and they have to be, trained, and that's very important.
Hayes.
Hi, I'm Hayes with Take Me Home. Wow, I have so many things. How will you know how many puppies were even born in your foster program? If they're born at my house, I could tell you, oh, I had 5, but I really had 10, because 5 are really cute, and those 5 I might sell on my own or breed those. You don't do home checks. You will never know. You will be creating more animals. That goes totally opposite of the no-kill nation, which I don't even believe in. That is a polar opposite plan. I had one foster that I sued for 3.5 years trying to get one dog back. How are you going to get dogs back when people go rogue on you? You won't. And my other thing is Laurel Kinder. Oh my God, I feel she's lost her way. The humane societies are requesting puppies? What kind of rescuing is that? That is crazy. Laurel Kendall needs to go to Fresno shelter where there are Chihuahua puppies that they're killing all day long. Fresno. Laurel needs, I mean, I'm blown away by this. Laurel needs to be investigated. I think this is the craziest thing. Who's gonna pay for diseases? Who's gonna pay for parvo, distemper? Oops, I let the dog go to the park and the dog got sick. Who are these people gonna go to? This is such a disaster. Please, let's just table this, get rid of this. Let's do enforcement. Let's stop animals from breeding. There's a park right down the street. They're all unaltered, right at the LAPD dog park. Let's do enforcement. This is not what we need to do. Thank you.
Julia?
Julia Pennington. I feel like, Hayes, my head's going to explode. There's so many issues. When you guys do discuss this, I would recommend you have all these amazing people who focus on spay and neuter to ask the questions about late term, how you can tell. From my understanding, it's very difficult to tell how late term they are and how many weeks unless you know when the animal was impregnated. So to ask the experts on that, please. Obviously, I'm against this. I want to address, though, procedure and how this happened. Because one New Hope person requested this, and now everyone's taking their time out. You guys are taking your time out. We've been trying to get New Hope coordinators forever. Everyone's requesting that. How did one New Hope person get this done so fast? And in here it says it is the department's view. But you just said it wasn't your idea to do this. When you said you talked to Lisa, you actually said, I think just now, have to listen to it, that it wasn't your idea. Was it Laurel's? Was it? I'm confused because here it says it is the department's view. And are there repercussions for a GM to come to you like this? You know, she's caused an uproar in the community. And a lot of people feel like you guys are also to blame because it's been presented right here. It says, Board of Animal Services decided to prohibit late-term spaying if New Hope or Animal Services fosters are available. Is that true? Did you decide to prohibit? Because this is what people are reading, and you guys are in charge. From what my understanding, I feel like there should be repercussions because this is a waste of time. And how many times is she going to be allowed to misrepresent what you guys are doing and come into you with false information? Did you prohibit it? Because it says here, right? Am I misunderstanding? No. Oh, you can't talk to me. Oh, sorry, but we're breaking all the rules anyway, right? There is no procedure anymore. So can you talk to me? I think there should be repercussions for this, and it's labor intensive. I don't know why we don't have coordinators when in here. Clearly, the vet can talk to the RVT can call and get follow-up. We clearly have personnel to do this, so we should do New Hope coordinators first. Thank you.
Amanda?
Thank you. My name is Amanda Lively. I'm an attorney that practices here in the city of Los Angeles. I was going to mention what the previous speaker had just mentioned about the shock that I had that seemingly one person in the rescue community can drop a line to Brenda Barnett and get this entire report done with all these procedures about banning the late-term pregnancy spay. I mean, the rescue groups, I'm an independent rescuer and I also volunteer with several rescue groups. I would love if one of us could just get on the horn and call and get an idea in her ear and spend, how long have we been here? Several hours that we've all taken out of our day. I would love that. I'm floored that I've never been to a meeting like this before. I'm going to start coming because I didn't know that, that we could do this kind of thing. As far as this being a revenue generating opportunity, I know we just got the spay, the puppy mill ordinance passed, but you know, maybe the next step is to put some real enforcement tools in here to generate some real revenue for the city with for making criminal liability or increasing the fines on these violators, because it sounds like there's a lot of them, and as far as collecting money, be like shooting fish in a barrel going after these people. And as far as the people that are being allowed to still sell puppies from puppy mills and from unlicensed breeders, there are those of us out there in the private sector that are looking at ways to make this stop, since it looks like it's not going to happen from the city. And I'm a pro-business person. But it sounds like the only way to make this stop now is to start hurting these businesses in a really big way, and we're looking at doing that. Thank you.
Nina?
I'm Nina Menard. I volunteer with Behind Adoption. And I'm actually conflicted about late-term spaying animals, but I do believe until better solutions found, such as enhanced spay-neuter program, public awareness, intake intervention, outreach programs or campaigns, I'm in favor of continuing the current policy as a necessary evil. There are so many unwanted animals, such as dogs and cats and rabbits, etc., and as it stands, and the puppies and kittens are available without breeding them. We don't have to add more. We can keep what we have and work with what we have and try and get homes for all of them. Thank you.
Mary Catalano?
Okay, here we go again. Oh my God. Okay, we gotta start, excuse me, don't count again. Okay, my favorite bumper sticker I ever saw in my entire life says birth control prevents abortion. It's a Planned Parenthood. First of all, I want you guys, since it was so easy for Laurel to get this and waste all our time on this, I want to have it on the agenda that you guys vote to give Mary Catalano $1 million. And I want you to do it. I am so serious about this because you can, and it can come on the agenda, do a board report. Because with the $1 million, I will give money to all the rescues that are paying medical bills. Actually, I need $2 million. And I want you to put it on the agenda, and I want you to do a board report about it. And I am dead serious about this, because this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, okay? So you want to vote, please, to give me $1 million so I can distribute these people who are killing themselves to try and save the animals that you're trying to make born, which is unbelievable. When I have adoptions, first of all, I haven't placed any kittens in 2 months because I screened my adopters, okay? And when I do my adoptions, I tell people, you don't want kittens. I don't always tell them you don't want kittens. I take that back. I place more adult cats than I do kittens, which is unbelievable. But that's because I talk people down off kittens during the time when I want to place some of the adults. And guess what? Adult animals are a much better choice for most people because they have a job and a life, and they want an animal that doesn't shit and piss and scream while they're at work. Okay? That's the kind of animal that people think they end up wanting. Puppies are returned very shortly by idiots who adopt them that don't take on the responsibility or are uneducated. We're not educating people. Okay? What about, let's extend this to rabbits. How about that? Let them take rabbits out. Boy, we don't have enough rabbits. Do you know scientifically rabbits can get pregnant 1 hour after giving birth? This is what I've been told by a rabbit expert. I'm not exactly sure about that, but where is this going to go, okay? Again, one person brought this to you. My problem is, when are you going to vote on this? When will it happen? We've all spent our time to come here. You've heard everything today. Are you going to forget this? Are you going to forget how insane it is that it's going to happen by the next meeting? I'm really worried about that, because do you want to listen to all the minutes? Do you want to listen to the recording of this before you come to your next commission meeting, which is going to be in 3 weeks? I mean, this is madness.
Lydia?
Yes, Lydia Grantson, Latona Neighborhood Council. There's a couple points that I don't think have been brought up today that need to be addressed. And one of those is, if we're producing more animals, the reality is that the death and euthanization of the animals that we already have in existence, there isn't a trade-off here. For every new animal that's going to be produced that gets a home, another animal's going to die in its place. If the city gets to a point where they don't need to euthanize any more animals, there are animals in our region, in Pasadena, Glendale, and other communities around us, that those animals could be replaced with without us producing new ones. One of the jobs of the Department of Animal Services is to educate people. And one of the things they're supposed to be educating people on is spay and neuter, so that we don't produce unwanted animals. It is extremely hypocritical of this commission and for the department to then turn around and make the decision to produce more animals themselves. I really wish that you would consider that. And also the other thing I would like to point out is how extremely rude it is to try to talk and get your voice heard when you do nothing but text and read your phone at every meeting I have ever been to, Ms. Barnett. I find that extremely rude. Pay attention, please. That's fine. It's important that the people in this room listen to the people who are speaking, because their opinions are very important to this process. And I appreciate all of you who have listened. Thank you.
Anybody else? Is the end public comment? There's no vote on this. We continue for next week for a future meeting. Next item is an all report of the general.
Oh, are the commissioners going to discuss it?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
I think I'm really happy that a lot of people showed up and voiced their opinions, and there's nuances in some of the opinions. But the thing I'd like to point out is, I just want to tell you one personal story. Just take it as that, and you can't see it. My cats, Julius and Macduff, probably one time in their lives they got along. But they're brothers, and they were born in a spay-mobile, where the mother of the cats was being spayed, and the uterus was tossed in the slops bucket, or whatever they call it. And it was noticed that the uterus was quivering a bit, and so the vet slid it open, and there were 2 viable cats there. And that's Julius and Macduff. So, these are hard decisions, and people point that out. These are it may be killing animals. So I don't think we should fool ourselves in thinking that it's not. But sometimes I'm just saying that rather than feel good about the fact that there's no problem with late-term abortion, or late-term terminations, late-term spaying. I don't even know if I'll accept what you have said here, but I've also talked to veterinarians, and I know they charge more, typically, or commonly, for a late-term third trimester spays, because it is a more complicated procedure, and the surgeries I do in my practice are above the clavicle, so I don't know about this myself. But more complicated procedures have a higher complication rate afterward, generally speaking. So we haven't heard from any veterinarians, and I know a lot of you people have a lot of experience in this, but I'd like to hear from veterinarians on, because I'm not really sure I understand what the policy is. There's late term, there's third trimester, and there's late third trimester. I think those are 2 different things. I think so that if the birth is occurring right at the top, at that moment, that's different than if it's earlier in the animal survival. I don't think we've made that distinction here. And if you go away just happy that third trimester staying is okay, then I agree with the comment that somebody made that this no-kill thing is a sham. If we're going to be killed, we are killing animals, and we have to accept the fact that we're doing it and not feel good about it just because they haven't not had their eyes open. So, I just had to share my story.
It's as if Commissioner Municipal read my mind. I'm not discussing how I'm inclined to vote. I think there were a lot of persuasive arguments here. Just a lot of constants. But I was most offended that I came by a speaker who said, I think he called it sham, I'm not sure what the word is, but killing is killing. And I think that it's a hard ethical choice. Someone said that. It's a hard ethical choice. I don't believe that one choice supersedes the other, because in one we're not killing, and the other we are. And so there's a real tragic kind of context to this whole thing that is really probably applies to everything, most of the things we do with regard to this department. So it's difficult put it in terms of killing, because I think the killing is happening no matter what. These late term, you kill them late term, you call them late term abortions, or you produce more animals and kill them later in their lives and call them euthanasia. But it's not as simple as I think it appears to be, or at least some might frame it. So I'm just kind of articulating concerns that I have as we approach this again. And so maybe someone could speak to those. I'm no vet. One of the things that concerned me when I saw this board report is that it said that these procedures are deemed not humane. And so maybe if we're killing animals, no matter what we call them, we have to figure out what the humane way of doing it is. And someone came and said, well, it's less humane to kill the ones that experience life. And that's logical reasoning to me also. And so rather than kind of advocating a position or trying to lobby other commissioners, I think I have a good sense of this, and I think it's a tough decision and kind of a tragic choice either way. But maybe the decision comes down as to which is the most humane way of terminating a life. And I don't even know if you can make that. I don't know if there's such a logical statement to make, period. I don't know. So I think that I became kind of sad during this whole thing when I realized there's really a greater issue here. And so that's how I frame it. On a more positive note, some people have said they wasted their time here, or I know that they've taken their time and sacrificed their time, but for me as a commissioner, this is an invigorating experience. My time hasn't been wasted. I always appreciate the public here to educate me as to what they think is the problem. Everyone cares so much. My job is not to rubber stamp proposals on the agenda or to be swayed by emotional content that comes at me from you guys. I really consider everything. And I thought we had a very well-reasoned discussion, and I thought that the second time around, you framed it more precisely, as you said, it's hard ethical choices. And so I'll just leave it at that. I really appreciate you guys coming and articulating your views, but those are my thoughts.
I agree with everything you said. I don't think anybody has wasted their time coming here today by any means. I try to not use the word hate lightly, but I hate everything about having to kill any animal, whether it's a puppy or a kitten or an older dog, or I hate all of that. I found my personal story. I found a stray dog one time who proceeded to have 4 puppies. I didn't know she was pregnant at the time, and it was a ton of work, and I loved every minute of it, and it pained me to screen homes for these dogs, and I found really great homes for all of them, and I still keep up with how they're doing. And I think about that, and I can't imagine had they not come into the world. At the same time, I've got my older dog at home, who's now 13, who was an adult dog when I pulled him from the shelter. And the fact of the matter is we're not no-kill, and we're having to kill animals, and it's horrible. And so where my head is in thinking about this is, if those puppies had not yet been born, and I had to choose between humanely euthanizing one of them and taking my 13-year-old dog, who's been in my home and been living life, I have to think that it would be less humane to do it to him than to one of those puppies. I don't know that that's true. I'll never know for certainty whether or not that's true. But as long as those are the things we're deciding between, and like I said, I hate every aspect of it, but that's where my head is right now. Several of you brought up the logistical parts of the program. How would it work? How would we know how many puppies there are? How would we know whether they're being spayed or neutered and where they're ending up? That's a whole other aspect to this that I don't feel like I have answers to yet. And I'm not articulating my thoughts well because I have a lot of them going on, but that's some of what I'm thinking right now.
Sure. So, I think like everyone, I have personal experiences that I can share. I don't know how helpful that is. The things that strike me, because as I understand it, this is about a policy board, and sometimes policy is a little different than your own ethical beliefs about something. And, look, I've held dying animals, I've held dying humans. That's a discussion about my pay grade. do know from a policy perspective, and I grew up working in a family member's veterinary facility. I've been in the euthanasia room. I identify with a lot of what was shared today. I also identify with, when I was very young, not very young, in my early 20s and making almost no money, I incurred a lot of bills on behalf of a dog with a rescue with unexpected health issues. And I was able to put it on a credit card and pay it off on over a number of years. And I know that's something that isn't available to everyone. And I also know, having a 10-month-old rescue right now, this is a dog I love more than anything. He sleeps in my bed, and we call him a little effort because I know how much work it is. Now that I'm in a position in my life to have resources to help with this dog, which I wasn't growing up. But all of the personal issues aside, I think from a policy perspective, all of the research, primary and secondary, I've done this week, talking to folks from all sides of it, the consensus, when you kind of strip away the emotional, which is very hard to do, is that if you take as a basis that we're killing a life either way, from a policy perspective, it strikes me that the expenses and legal implications and work around a puppy are different than a mature dog. And I think that's the policy that I keep coming back to, because again, we could sit here all day for weeks and weeks and weeks and talk about the ethics. But the policy, to me, seems to be one of fairly great consensus for the folks doing it.
Commissioners, one of the things that we tried to do with how we could possibly do a program like this was to streamline it down so that the veterinarians on our staff had a lot of control over this, over the health of the mother, over whether or not there were fosters available. I mean, I think I would recognize all of the challenges that have been mentioned, but that's what we were trying to do, is to try to get it down to as tight and as doable as possible. Of course, there are loopholes in terms of, being able to prove how many are born or not born, but we did, as we worked on this policy, and the policy, the procedure was actually worked on by a long-time city employee who is very much skilled and knowledgeable about what's been going on in the city for 10 or 15 years, by our chief veterinarian and by someone else in our operations, to try to put together something that was as doable as possible. And there are challenges. There are, on occasion, puppies that are born before they get to spay and neuter. Those are not euthanized or put to death or killed, whichever term you prefer. Those are, we try to get those out into foster. But that's not because the veterinarians on our staff are delaying spay and neuter. It just sometimes happens that you come in the morning with a surprise.
Any other comments, any more discussion? And we will continue this to the next meeting, or maybe the meeting after, whatever. And the next item will be the oral report of the general manager.
Let's see, we've already mentioned the circus, so we won't mention that again. Hopefully you saw the Daily News article that reported the good news about our numbers and our statistics, and I was hoping to have the actual end-of-year numbers before this morning, but through a little misunderstanding of actually what I wanted, I don't have those. But we do have, it looks like we're on target to do 4,000 fewer euthanasias this year than previous years. We also mentioned the So there was a Maddie's Fund webinar that some of us attended. It was online. I don't know if anyone heard about new innovations in ideas about what to do to save more cats in the shelters and in the communities. There's a follow-up on that on July the 11th, this Thursday evening. It was very interesting. It sparked a lot of controversy, particularly on the SAWA, the Society of Animal Welfare Administrators website. More of the SAWA is the heavy municipal. Maddie's represents, has come, well, that's not probably accurate, but they come more from a private shelter headset. So there has sparked a debate, which is a lot of what we see today is, you know, my background is private shelter. And there is somewhat of a different headset sometimes on some issues. Anyway, so it's an interesting, if anybody wants to tune in on the Thursday night, you can go to the management website and find out about it. Mayor Garcetti had the first meeting with the general managers yesterday. I found it very exciting and invigorating in a lot of ways. He has four main goals, and one is for economic recovery and the formation of jobs, which plays into some of the ideas that we may bring forward going forward. He wants to reinvent the government in terms of efficiency with things like technology, things that we're doing now that's taking sheets and sheets of paper and huge reports that can be done through technology with more efficiency, I think will be good. He's also interested in things that are sustainability about the environment, so that we are a healthier community on all levels, whether I won't go into examples. And then the one that I think is, and he said not in this order, but he's very much interested in customer service and having us be reachable, available, and some of the things that he himself does is online town hall meetings. We're in the process of trying to find out if we can do some online town hall meetings and how much the cost would be, to see if we can take more input, and so that we have a little bit easier time of getting dialogue and input before we actually get to a commission meeting. Sometimes we don't even know it's going to be a hot button, and it is. So some online town hall meetings could be very helpful to us. And also for people who don't want to have to go to South LA or East Valley or whatever, it might be more effective. You may have read the article in the paper, I think it was this morning, or it might just have been online, or it might have been on TV, but there was a 13-week, I think it's a French bull puppy that is being held at North Central as evidence. His owner faces felony charges for abuse. And so we've had some press over that. The puppy will be with us for 30 days as evidence, and then hopefully the dog will be released to us, and we'll be finding him a new home of his own.